Hello and welcome back to another episode of Nick Tiffany's Movie Reviews, coming at you online and in print format at nicktiffany.com, in audio format wherever you get your podcasts, and even in video on YouTube. Today we are venturing back into the wasteland, into the world of Mad Max to discuss Furiosa, a Mad Max Saga. This is the prequel film to Mad Max Fury Road, but more importantly, the Charlize Theron Furiosa character, detailing how she was stolen from this green place of abundance that is just a mirage, a thing of myths in a world that's embodied by Bullet Town, Gasoline Town, and the Citadel. There's not a whole lot out there in the wasteland other than a whole bunch of weird freaks and crazy goons. And at 80 years old, George Miller is just this man is firing on all cylinders. He has not let up into this old age, and he's continuing to make projects that just astound on a technical level. And for storytelling, he's a wonder. This movie is wild. It is bizarre. It is really funny in a lot of ways too, and just like weird, futuristic way. Not even futuristic ways. There's just quick example as we're kind of just diving right into the review. There's a guy named Piss Boy, and the line read is nothing that's supposed to be funny. It's just hey Piss Boy, we need some piss to douse the flames up here. And there's a character who just has bottles and bottles and bottles of piss ready to douse radiators, anything that needs working on when they're out there because water is so scarce. And it's these creative but just really funny, objectively funny methods that they're using for survival out there in the wasteland. uh, Impressively, much like the last film, Fury Road. I remember they brought a couple different prop cars from the film that were used, to kind of promote the film. They brought them to a local movie theater, and looking at those, and even though they were just like a Ford, Mustang GT or something that was souped up, they looked awesome. And continuing a trend as if there's no surprise there. Every rig, from triple stacked cars to the war rigs they're driving. I mean, everything. There's even really inventive and creative aviation methods in this film that I don't want to spoil, but there was so much that took me by surprise by the way of what vehicles they were using, some of the gunfighting as well. I mean, it's awesome as so much of the road action is in this movie. There was really a lot of just awesome gunfights, different, close to close or hand to hand, close quarters combat. I was really, really impressed with the action in this film. And unlike Fury Road, this is far more of a chapter. They break it into chapters for you, but it is a more detailed story that actually follows a larger story, has different character beats, has moments that challenge our character as she grows up. And for that reason, I think a lot of people might go into this and feel like, wow, Furiosa is a little slow. And that's just because Mad Max Fury Road doesn't let off the gas. You're driving out this way, you're driving back that way. It's nonstop. The Doof Warrior's chasing you with his flaming guitar. The world is just nuts and completely loony. And Chris Hemsworth, to his credit, really delivers in a way that is quite impressive for him. At least for me, after watching him not necessarily phone in some Thor performances, they haven't really done much with the character that's been great in the last few movies. They kind of turned him into Mr. Funny Man, and then it just went off the rails. And he's got this impressive physique, but he's also quite funny. And so he blends those in a way in this film that's just dastardly, because his character, Dementus, the leader of this motorbike gang, is just an awful dude. And while he is kind of funny, objectively, he's also just awful, and he does horrible things. And from an early age, captures Furiosa. It kind of raises her in captivity. Eventually, she makes her way to the Citadel, kind of underneath the rule of Immortan Joe. And so you kind of chronicle these changes in her life, how these things have kind of prepared her for stealing that war rig in Mad Max Fury Road, getting the brides out of there. And again, there's no shortage of weirdness, or just, the idea of the mother's milk these mutant babies because there's no full-born people anymore. There's just, the organic mechanic. There's tons of characters from Fury Road who are in this movie, and it does kind of clue you into more of their background. And in that way, I've been reading and just kind of talking with a lot of people about this movie, and going back and watching Fury Road after watching Furiosa does kind of give you a greater appreciation, not only for Charlize's performance, definitely for the performances that Anya Taylor-Joy gives, as well as Elila Brown, who plays the youngest Furiosa in the movie. It's just incredibly impressive, and how the story blends into the next one just makes it even more important almost. And that raises the stakes. You're that much more on Furiosa's side, I would say. Anya Taylor-Joy was great, for the last third of the film. It's kind of like she just embodies the spirit of Charlize, from voice to stature to everything. It was really impressive to watch her morph. But young Furiosa, played by this Elila Brown, granted, I learned after the movie that they do use some CGI of some sort. I don't know if it's AI, but they completely like reshaped this girl's facial structure, because I'm watching the film and I'm like, oh my God, whoever this young girl is, they just found the greatest looking actress who will morph into Anya Taylor-Joy and into Charlize Theron. You can see it in her face, in the chin, the eyes, the eyebrows, whatever it is. You're like, wow, I see her. It's like Pokemon evolving into Anya Taylor-Joy and then Charlize Theron. Come to learn that afterwards, okay, yeah, they definitely use some visual effects, because looking at the girl's picture right now, she looks remotely like them, but nothing like she did in the film. And so, credit to them. I totally didn't know that that was a visual effect. There are a few things in the movie, whether it feels like the volume or whether it feels like they've kind of sped up some of the frame rates. There's just a few moments, whether it's people hopping on bikes or hopping off of something, or you just notice something. Maybe it's my trained eye, I'm not sure, but you're just kind of like, oh, that looked a little funny. That looked odd. And then you're like, okay, well, that doesn't really look like a background there. You can tell when they're in the desert and when they're using a desert image. And so, unlike Fury Road, I think in some ways a little bit, the filmmaking, but the cinematography and the effects kind of take a little bit of a ding. I know this is the first time that Miller's worked with not with a different cinematographer, but his longtime cinematographer who worked on Fury Road retired after this last movie that George Miller had made, so was not on Furiosa. So visually, you can sort of expect a little bit of a difference there. The performances, though, just fantastic. So much fun. This movie, I went back again a couple days later because I was like, all right, who knows how long this is going to stay in theaters for? Who knows what movie's going to bump it out of IMAX next? So it was well worth it to go back again. Second time through, especially, the story, everything just felt even more cohesive. The film moved quicker in my eyes than it maybe did in the first time. But again, I think that might just be due to expecting a pace like Fury Road and then dialing it back for a real story that fleshes out the characters, that's just full of some fantastic, intense, grotesque, badass moments. George Miller at 80 is just doing things that directors at 30 wish they could be doing. I mean, the energy that he has for this film and this world is unbelievable. It's not doing the best at the box office right now, which has kind of put I don't know if it's a prequel, sequel, sideways, equal, but there will be another film of the Mad Max Saga. It's not getting the green light at the moment, so hopefully in the future we might get that. But if Furiosa is the last thing we get in this Mad Max world, freaking thank you, George Miller, because this was just badass on every level. This is movie and storytelling at its most extreme, and George Miller is just a treasure. So check out Furiosa if you can. It's unbelievable. Thank you again for listening. As always, you can tune into NT Movie Reviews anywhere on social media networks, our podcast platforms, and even on YouTube. And as always, take care.